pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Let the minutes show that all city councilmen are present. There is a copy of the Open Meetings Act posted on the west wall, and you can refer to that at any time during this meeting. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a councilman or a citizen so desires. First item on the consent agenda is item A, approve agenda as submitted. Item B, receive and place on file all notices pertaining to this meeting. Item C, receive and place on file all materials having any bearing on this meeting. Item D, approval of minutes of regular meeting on March 2nd, 2015, as on file at the City Clerk's office. Item E, approval of Treasurer's Report of Claims in the amount of $581,577.17. Item F, approval of BOSWA Report of Claims in the amount of $28,013.64. Item G, write-off of mowing bill bad debts. Item H, Resolution 5752, appointing Justin Teesmeyer to fill the vacancy on the Firefighters Retirement Committee. Item I, Resolution number 5753, appointing Wendy Doyle and Richard Mayfield to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And item J, Resolution number 5754, entering into an agreement with JK Energy Consultings, LLC, to provide services in relation to a power supply evaluation for the city's electric utility, as recommended by the Board of Public Works. Is there any item that the city councilman would like removed from the consent agenda?
Mayor, I'd like to abstain from item D.
Okay. Mr. Rick?
J.
And you're abstaining from item J?
No.
Oh, you want it pulled? Okay. Mr. Catlin?
Mayor, I move that all the items listed under the consent agenda, with the exception of item J, be approved, accepted, and ratified as presented.
Second. It's been moved by Catlin, seconded by Morgan, that the items under the consent agenda be approved with the exception of item J. Your vote, please. And that is approved 7 and, I'm sorry, are you guys finished?
Yeah.
Okay, 8-0. Rick?
I don't have any
Make a
problem.
motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Petey's going to make a motion first.
Mayor, I move that resolution number 5754, entering into an agreement with JK Energy Consulting, LLC, to provide services in relationship to a power supply evaluation for the city's electrical utility, as recommended by the BPW, be approved, accepted, and ratified as presented.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Kerr. Discussion.
I don't have any problem with getting a consultant to help us with this. I think we need that, and I like the local person doing it out of Lincoln. But I just wondered if we could partner with any of the other cities that are, you have like a consortium of what, half a dozen other cities that you are kind of going to meetings with and everything. Is there any way to partner with them?
Ultimately, what will happen is each individual city or public power district will sign its own contract with the power supplier that's out there. We certainly can go out and look with others, and I have been in contact. I do believe you'll see at least one other city and probably a couple other public power districts hire JK Consulting to do the study as well for them. But I don't want to wait for them to join on board, but I do think that they will join and also go out and look with the same consulting company.
Ted?
Well, it's my belief that that you're going to have a certain number of the communities or municipalities that won't hire the consultant at all. They're just going to take the information garnered from ours. I agree with Rick. I think that maybe it's too late. Maybe we shouldn't have to wait to do it. But maybe it's too far in the process, but I would have liked to have seen us, if it isn't too late, I would have liked to have seen us reach out to see, so we could have got a little, price reduced, to band it together, let somebody else help pay for it, because I think they're basically going to use the information they garner from us and do that. So that's where I'm at. I agree with Rick.
Does it make sense to do that? Or, I mean, I know each one of us sign our own individual contracts and everything.
With the Public Power Energy Services, that one, in that case, that individual was looking to spread his out-of-pocket expenses amongst everybody who was going to be out looking at the same time. With JK Consulting, he's looking at having a set fee, regardless of 6 people sign up or 1 person signs up to go look. His fee's the same to do the study for your individual community. So I don't see there being a change in the price by going and looking.
You're going to charge the same, the consulting company charges the same fee for us or a community half our size?
I can't speak for them because I haven't seen what they've offered anybody else, but I believe that's something very similar to it. I don't know the price changes much. Like I said, I do know some other communities that will be out looking here shortly.
Yeah. Well, this is part of the problem that we run into. We're at the end of the conversation and making the decision, and not at the beginning of the conversation. That's I'm not going to vote against it, but I don't like it. So
8 to 12,000. That's not a set fee.
Any other comments? Any comments from the public? We have a motion on the floor. Your vote, please. And that is approved 8-0. There are no public hearings. Next item on the agenda, item 4, is a resolution entering into a contract for sale of real estate, selling city-owned property described as lots 6 through 9, Block 3, Weston's 2nd Edition, and lots 8, Block 2, Penner's Edition, located adjacent to 400 Logan, to James H. and Lilibeth C. Perry.
Mayor, I move that resolution number 5755 be passed and approved.
Second. Been moved by Catlin, seconded by Morgan, to approve resolution number 5755. Your discussion, please.
Mr. Perry approached us some time ago. He lives at about 4th and Logan Street. He inquired about the property that's located immediately north of his property. This was a couple parcels there that the city had acquired over some various sheriff's sales over the years. One of them used to hold a dilapidated building that the city tore down in probably 2009, somewhere in that ballpark, and acquired the property through the sheriff's sale. The properties essentially are at an elevation where building on them is difficult to do, if not impossible. They don't have any street frontage, and Mr. Perry approached the city about acquiring those. What before you tonight is a real estate agreement to sell him all those lots, I believe for a total of $1,000, and there are some deed restrictions which would prevent Mr. Perry from placing nuisance property and some of those things on the property there. So,
Mike, as I read through this, my only question is, does this become a piece of his property adjoining? So like or can he sell these lots off himself later? I mean, or is it part of his lot?
no, initially they would not be part of his lot. If he would have to go through another procedure if he wanted to connect them to his property.
We can't just quick claim it over and make it part of that.
No, it has to be
The
administrative.
combination of it has to be, it's kind of like going through the plating process. We'll have to do administrative subdivision to piece them all back together.
I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with the sale. I don't have a problem with the sale of it. I just would have liked to seen it at this. I know no one else has had any interest in it, but at this reduced rate, I would have liked to have seen it become part of his lot. So if he sells his property, it all goes at once. So he can't that he can't sell it off for a profit later. So that's all.
Mr. Perry?
But I'm not going to vote against it.
Mr. Perry, why don't you come on up? Just state your name and your address, please. Thanks for coming.
I'm James Perry. I live at 400 Logan Street. And just want to assure you, we do plan on, I don't know the name of the procedure, but they are all going to be, I don't know, what's it called when you
One
put it all
parcel.
together?
You'll
Yeah,
turn
one
it in,
parcel.
you'll turn it into one legal parcel.
You're gonna make it into one big lot for your house.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
That's not the legal term, but that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So,
And
okay.
granted, it's not a lot of money, but for instance, just to get the dead trees out of there, $2,500 off the tronic. I already got the bid. So there is,
Got to be some expenses to it.
yes, that's going to be incurred along with the sale. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions of Mr. Perry before he sits down?
Well, then
All
we
right.
don't have to take care of it anymore. That's another.
That's exactly
that's
right.
another deal.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Anyone from the public? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Motion's on the
I beg your pardon. In that instance, I would ask for your vote, please. And that is approved 8-0. Next item on the agenda is a resolution entering into a contract for sale of real estate selling city-owned property described as the east 33 feet of vacated South 9th Street adjacent to the west half of lots 5 and 6, Block 7 Highlands Park Edition, located at 9th and Oak Streets, to Todd and Sony Heido.
Mayor, I move that resolution number 5756 be passed and adopted.
Second.
And moved by Catlin, seconded by Party, seconded by Cook. That resolution 5756 be passed and adopted. Tobias?
If you look on page 36 in your package, you can see an aerial map of what we're talking about. And what Mr. Heido has purchased a parcel of ground at essentially what is 9th and Oak Street. He wants to build a house there. In order to meet the setbacks and stay out of the flood fringe area, he needs to move his house a little bit to the west. To make this work, he needs to acquire a little bit of property from the city, and this would be part of the right-of-way that you see there in the hashed area. There is a street right-of-way that runs through there. It's not been improved, never has been improved. It's not in the plans to be improved. And so our recommendation to you tonight is to proceed with vacating this portion of the street and then ultimately selling it to Mr. Heido at the purchase price, I believe, of $100.
This is that property that's got that old pole shed and all that old junk crap on it.
But this would be just to
Just
the
to the
east
east
of
of
it.
it, yeah.
Correct. Comments? Questions?
How did we gain that property?
That right-of-way, we would have gained it back years ago when this property was platted. I can't tell you when that was done.
You know, we put together a few years ago, when we had problems with this, I thought it was a written policy that we had a specific formula to figure out the value of these. This obviously isn't that.
We had a formula that we used for a while, and then we deviated from that, and we've never gone back to it, and so.
Well, I'm not gonna vote against this, but we need to have that so it doesn't, we need to have, I sat here with Jim Rector in the early 90s, and I know we had a formula then, we deviated from it, went away. I know we put it back into place again, and we need to have something that is used all the time and used in the same manner all the time.
Rick?
I just wanted to commend Mr. Heido for putting a nice house there. That's really going to improve that area. That will be fantastic to be driving by something like that. So, thank
Todd,
you.
if you want to come up, I'll get to you, Dwight, just a moment. State your name and address, if you would, Todd.
Todd Heido, 715 Ellis Street, currently. Ted, one of your concerns. Part of the reason it is creek bottom ground, basically.
Yeah, I know.
And I just need the street plat to go away to get this, so I don't have a 25-foot setback. Bear in mind, the city will, I'm sure, fine me and tax me. And so that, one thing, I know the ground's cheap, but I'm sure be putting a house up to it, you'll get the money back
Yeah.
thousandfold.
Yeah, I don't doubt that, Todd, and it's just that I'd like to see something that we use so it isn't hodgepodge. You know, you have set rates for everything, and we should have set rates for everything. I don't have any problem with it, and I'm with Rick. I agree with it. It's going to be a nice addition to the area, and you're right. I agree with you. We're going to get our money back.
Dwight, anything?
Comment was mostly the same as both of them. Didn't not see the low price, but we're happy to see something on that's going to be raising the property valuations there, and so we'll get our money back.
Kind of taking the gamble on the lot, but I think in my vision, and we actually staked the basement out tonight, and you should see a hole go in the ground by the end of this week, and progress within the next couple of weeks. And I think that would be the start, of trying to build up that bottom area there. So.
Well, you'll move out in 5 years anyway, like you did on me.
Well, you were in the neighborhood.
I agree. There you go.
Thanks, Todd. Any other comments from the council? Anybody from the audience, or anyone from the audience? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Your vote, please. That has been approved 8-0. Resolution number 5756 has been approved. Next item is an ordinance conveying city-owned property described as lots 6 through 9, Block 3, Weston 2nd Edition, and Lot 8, Block 2, Penner's Edition, located adjacent to 400 Logan to James H. and Lilibeth C. Perry.
Mayor, I move that said ordinance be given number 15-001. The title therefore be approved, the rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Been moved by Catlin, seconded by Party, that we read ordinance number 15-001 by title 3 times tonight. There is no discussion if the rules are suspended. Your vote, please.
By number.
By number, beg your pardon. All right, ordinance number 15-001 the first time, ordinance number 15-001 the second time, and ordinance number 15-001 the third time.
Mayor, I move that ordinance number 15-001 be passed and approved.
Second.
Been moved by Catlin, seconded by Party. By Billsbach. You guys sit too close together. Your vote, please. And that is approved 8-0. Next item on the agenda is ordinance vacating a portion of 9th Street right-of-way described as the east 33 feet of vacated south 9th Street, adjacent to the west half of lots 5 and 6, Block 7, Highland Park Edition.
Mayor, I move that said ordinance be given number 15-002. The title therefore be approved, the rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second, Kurt.
By Catlin, seconded by Kerr.
Can I help you out?
That 15-002 be, the rules be suspended and read by title only for 3 times tonight. There is no discussion if the rules are suspended. Your vote, please. All right. Ordinance number 15-002 the first time, ordinance number 15-002 the second time, and ordinance number 15-002 the third time.
Mayor, I move that ordinance number 15-002 be passed and approved.
Second, Clayball.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Claybaugh. I really appreciate you guys helping me out. Any further discussion? And your vote, please. All right. And ordinance number 15-002 has been approved. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 15-003, an ordinance conveying city-owned property. Didn't we just do that? No. Beg your pardon. Ordinance, I beg your pardon. An ordinance conveying city-owned property described as the east 33 feet of vacated south 9th Street, adjacent to the west half of lots 5 and 6, Block 7, Highland Park Edition, located at 9th and Oak Streets, to Todd A. and Sony N. Hydo.
Mayor, I move the said ordinance be given number 15-003. The title therefore be approved, the rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Been moved by Catlin, seconded by Kerr, that 15-003 be read by the rules suspended and the ordinance read by number 3 times tonight. There is no discussion if the rules are suspended. Your vote, please. That is approved 8-0. Ordinance number 15-003 the first time, ordinance number 15-003 the second time, and ordinance number 15-003 the third and final time.
Mayor, I move that ordinance number 15-003 be passed and approved.
Second.
So which one do you want? Morgan? Moved by Catlin, seconded by Morgan, that ordinance number 15-003 be passed and approved. And your vote, please. And that is approved 8-0. Next item on the agenda is an ordinance to amend sections 26 through 45 and 26 through 46 of the Beatrice City Code, setting utility payment due dates and amending the disconnection policy.
Mayor, I move that said ordinance be given number 15-004. The title therefore be approved, the rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Then moved by Catlin, seconded by Cook, that ordinance number 15-004 be approved, the rules suspended, and the ordinance be read by title only 3 times tonight. There is no discussion if the rules are suspended. Your vote, please. That is approved 8-0. Discussion.
Then make a motion.
You gotta read the number.
You got to read it 3 times.
Beg your pardon. Ordinance number 15-004 the first time, ordinance number 15-004 the second time, and ordinance number 15-004 the third and final time.
Mayor, I move that ordinance number 15-004 be passed and approved.
Second.
Been moved by Catlin, seconded by Cook, that ordinance number 15-004 be passed and approved.
Mayor, if I may, just so we make this clear, first off, this does not change anything with BPW bills. It simply is going to make the city code mirror what our current practices are. The current city code reads that we're to mail you your BPW bill. You have 10 days to pay, and if you don't, we can come out and disconnect your services. Well, our practice is we mail it to you. You get 15 days. If you haven't paid, then you get a delinquent notice. You get another, I believe, 10 days, 10 business days to pay. If you haven't paid, then your services are disconnected. The proposed changes to the city code would simply mirror what current practices are. Nothing else. That's the only change that's out there.
So we're basically being a little more lenient.
We're more lenient than what our current code says that we have to be.
Right.
And so that's the proposed change before you tonight.
This is strictly a housekeeping measure.
Strictly a housekeeping measure. As we were going through looking at various things, we ran across this one and noticed it didn't match what we did, and just cleaning it up.
Any other comments? Anyone from the audience? If there is none, your vote, please. That is approved 8-0. Ordinance number 15-004 has been passed and adopted. Next item on the agenda is the public forum. The purpose of the public forum is for the presentation of an item by the general public to the City Council for consideration at a later date. No action or discussion will be taken by the City Council at this time. Is there anyone here for the public forum? Seeing none. Next item is a report from Olson and Associates regarding comprehensive plan that includes the energy portion. And with us from Olson and Associates is Avery Oltmans. Avery, got the floor.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for having me over tonight. As you said, my name is Avery Oltmans. I am an employee with Olson Associates in Omaha, Nebraska, 2111 South 67th Street. And obviously to present, the purpose of my appearance here today is to present the energy element appendix amendment to the existing comprehensive plan. The purpose of which to bring the existing comprehensive plan into statutory agreement with current statutory requirements. And I'd start by just, for all of you who are not aware, the purpose of this, the reason that they're doing this was a law passed in first parts of 2010 requiring that all comprehensive plans have an energy element. The purpose of which, and I'll read, is to provide an existing comprehensive plan developed on or after July 15, 2010, but not later than January 1, 2015, an energy element which assesses energy infrastructure, energy use by sector, including residential, commercial, and industrial sectors, evaluates utilization of renewable energy resources, and promotes energy conservation measures that benefit the community. Elements left out or made exempt would be villages and counties. Obviously, Beatrice would then apply. For all of your benefit, the legislature is specifically vague on the impact of falling out of compliance in terms of the date, because obviously January 1, 2015 has just gone past. General consensus is that the impact is that the comprehensive plan, not up to date, not with statutory requirements, has an impact, a potential impact on the municipality's authority to enforce zoning. So bringing your comp plan up to date by including the amendment is to forestall any foreseeable challenge to the ability of the city to zone. I'm going to quickly run through the document. Obviously, as questions crop up, please feel free. The orientation of the document is first to give a brief discussion of what the energy element is, the need for it as a result of the recent passage of Nebraska state law. The first section goes into as the requirements in the statute state in evaluation of energy use by sector. And you may notice there we start with residential, commercial, industrial, transportation sectors. This is a statewide issuance of this data. By and large, municipalities such as Beatrice do not have data made available. However, in the next section we see that Beatrice is an exception to that rule, where the Public Works Office made available to our office recent energy usage and energy sales for the city of Nebraska. The intent of both of these sections is to illuminate and show energy usage over time, and the intent of which to show whether or not the city of Beatrice is growing on a per capita basis in the amount of energy used, and also to highlight those sectors, both in terms of the end user and the orientation of that data, how it's generated, how that energy is used and generated over time. I'll just cut to the chase. Essentially, what both of these elements are showing is that energy usage and energy generation are both very stable. Energy use is stable as a function of the population. Energy generation is stable as a function of the provider. In addition to the data provided by the Public Works, Beatrice Public Works, you can also have a viewpoint of what the price has done as well. And that has also been fairly stable, both in terms of the overall price and in terms of the per capita price, price charged per user. If I could direct your attention then to page 9. There is a brief discussion of the population projection of Beatrice and using that as a function to estimate energy usage in the near future. The population projection that you are seeing on the top of page 10 is taken from the existing comprehensive plan that was last updated in 2006. Those population numbers, as I said before, are meant to carry forward the per capita energy use as seen over the last few years, and with population projections as prescribed, attempt to estimate those energy usage that we can expect in the future. And on the bottom of page 10, you can see what the result is of that. And again, a very stable increase in the energy use. On page 11, we go into the Nebraska Energy Code. This is a very vague, a very wide open, meant for interpretation and for flexibility, that the state of Nebraska puts out to encourage the same focus of the energy element itself, encourage energy conservation and the provision of any renewable energy types. Beginning on the bottom of page 11 and continuing on to 12, we have a brief discussion of the renewable energy types that are currently available. Starting with solar, starting with some conversation about wind easements, solar and wind easements, local options, and servability. It's a tough one. That first paragraph is meant to highlight some of the constraints that go along with siting these facilities. So obviously, you wouldn't want a 60-foot commercial type wind generation in a place where it could potentially fall and cause any catastrophic injuries. Other considerations and concerns with solar mentioned there as well. Starting with wind power, solar power, biomass, geothermal. The intent of these descriptions of these renewable energy types are meant to describe the ability of this region to support each type, an assessment or an estimate based upon industry trends as to the costs of the energy types, these renewable energy types. Again, long story short, the purpose of the way in which this content is written is meant to provide data as opposed to jumping to the conclusion. However, I will state that in terms of cost of energy produced and the cost of the facility to generate the renewable energy, wind and following solar appear to be the best options locally for City of Beatrice and its immediate extraterritorial jurisdiction. Page 14, we start into funding resources. These would be both state and federal funding resources, as well as some of the funding sources made available and incentives made available through the local energy provider. The content here is meant to give a brief description of what these are and, of course, direct the user to more information held online. Our last bit here, starting on page 15, is an effort to identify areas that would be most appropriate for future development as a function of current city utilities. Now, this is not an element required by the state statutory, but through initial conversations regarding the formation of this project, it was a desire of this report to help in this way. The focus being that an efficient location of future development would conserve resources as it pertains to the extension of these utilities meant to serve them. The write-up provides a general description of how the ranking, if you will, and the siting characteristics in terms of proximity go, but essentially those areas nearest to the largest capacity utilities would be given a higher ranking than those areas near to lower capacity utilities. So the capacity of these utilities were estimated based upon diameter of sewer lines, diameter of water lines, and the KV carried by electric transmission lines, respectively. This starts out with the electric transmission lines. I'm on page 16. And if you would refer to, there is a brief table on the middle of page 16, which attempts to, again, further elaborate how the ranking of these areas were constructed. And if you would follow me then to the following page 17, figure 17, there you see a arrangement of the city and an identification of 5 disparate areas ranging from best to poor. Those areas left out are those areas that are already urbanized, essentially already been affected by some type of development. Again, the impression that we want to give is that future development and citing those areas for future development. Also, too, you will note that areas impacted by the 100-year floodplain are clearly denoted. The intent, of course, to discourage certain types of development within those areas. And so you will note that the areas immediately adjacent to city limits are most appropriate as a function of the electrical system. Also, too, extending more or less north on the north and east portions of extreme north Beatrice, there is transmission line that would, from an electrical standpoint, help to facilitate future development. Moving on, page 18, we're talking about water. Again, on page 18, there's a small graph that again shows some of the ranking characteristics. If you would again follow me to page 18, this is figure 19. This is a map constructed meant to highlight those areas most appropriate for future development as a function of the water utility in much the same way as the electric. Lastly, then, we took a look at natural gas. This map is arranged in a different criterion based upon the inability of Black Hills to divulge their specific locational data as a function of the security of their natural gas infrastructure. So as a result, instead of identifying proximity, we instead divided Beatrice into 4 quadrants and provided a description of the ability to service those 4 quadrants. On page 20, the identification of those 4 quadrants, again, found on page 21. The very last section, contained on pages 22 and shortly ending on 23, contain goals and strategies pursuant to the energy element. These are meant to augment and enhance the existing comprehensive plan, goals and strategies. So, of course, none of these goals and strategies are directly in contrast to 2006 comp plan goals and strategies, and to the best of our ability, they were crafted to further in the our area of energy conservation and renewable energy generation. Just real briefly, I'll start with goal number 1, increase the percentage of renewable energy used by Beatrice residents. Strategies and actions following thereafter meant to provide somewhat measurable goals for the community to institute and pursue the goal of increasing renewable energy by Beatrice residents. Goal 2, increase energy efficiency in Beatrice through the implementation of conservation methods. Again, more goals and strategies. There was talk earlier in the meeting here today about a very similar organization arrangement with an outside consultant. That would actually be one of the strategies mentioned in here, so we're already on the way for that. Goal 3, on the bottom of page 22, ensure that Beatrice has and can maintain energy security by providing redundant energy systems. At present, and for the purposes of this report, redundant energy systems are essentially those systems which are provided by more than a single point. And in that way, the city is well off. We have energy from electric and natural gas, both entering into the community from two different locations. The intent being that if a disruption were to occur at the one, the system could be supplemented by the second. And so these strategies and goals are meant to help ensure that steps are taken to maintain that energy security within the community. Last goal listed here on page 23, Beatrice should target future development in areas that can accommodate new development with minimal extension of services. This speaks very much to the section of the report immediately preceding, identifying those areas that, in terms of proximity to existing utilities, would be easiest to serve requiring the smallest amount of extension services. So, are there any questions?
Questions? Anybody?
It was very informative, though. It was educational for me, because I didn't know a lot of those things. So.
Anyone from the public? All right, Avery, thank you very much for the update. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on. Legislative update.
Excuse me, you'll note in the packet, many of the things that we're following are still stuck in committee and aren't moving at this point, but one that we had talked about in the past is LB 28, and this has to do with radon-resistant new construction. You'll note that this came out 2 years ago, again, is now back in the general file, and so we'll have to watch it. It is something we have discussed at City Council before about radon-resistant required for new construction. So we'll keep an eye on it and see what happens to it.
Okay. Rich?
Have they made any moves on those TIF funding bills that have come through? There was, what, 3 or 4 of them? Are
No,
they
I think
still
you'll
in
note
committee?
most of them are still in
Still
committee.
in committee?
There has
So
not
if they
been
get stuck, they won't mess with them, correct?
one. Well, bills this year will carry over to next year, so they'll still be there.
Any other comments? Questions from Tobias? Okay, last time on the agenda is the monthly report from the city administrator.
Again, happy to answer any questions. Couple items I want to point out to you in the Public Properties Department. They have installed the new features at the skate park. If you remember, we had some wooden structures that had become dilapidated and unsafe. We had those removed and we bought some new steel structures, and those have been installed and are open for use. The other item that I would note in the electric department, Pat Feist and his guys have installed 100 new street lights and LED street lights. Most of them are located between Court and Hoyt, 6th to 19th. So that was the second section of town that we've completed. We believe that we have about 4 more years until that is completed, that project.
They're pretty easily identified. I think it looks real nice.
Not hard to tell which ones are LED and which ones are not.
That's exactly right. Lights up the neighborhoods.
Yes.
All right, any other comments? All right. Our next regular council meeting is on April 6th at 7 p.m., and our work session is going to be next Monday, a week from today, March 23rd. And with that, I would recommend that the city council go into executive session for the protection of public interest to discuss real estate.
Mayor, I move that the Beatrice City Council go into closed session at 7:43 p.m. for the protection of public interest to discuss real estate.
Second.
Been moved by Catlin, seconded by Claybaugh, that we go into executive session. Your vote, please. That is approved, 8-0.